From the outside, it looks like a cozy and welcoming go-to coffee spot. But step inside and you'll discover that Dry Hooch is so much more. In our Sunday morning spotlight, Daniela Cotto shows us how this gathering place is helping veterans make the transition back to civilian life by allowing them to feel right at home.
On the well-traveled stretch of Brady Street on Milwaukee's east side, in between the bars, shops, and restaurants, you'll come across a warm spot for a cup of joe.
And when I came here, I began to hear about this place called Dry Hooch, Dry Hooch, Dry Hooch, and how they help veterans. And I came over here.
Dry Hooch has been a staple for Eastsiders for the past 15 years.
In Vietnam, hooch was a place you live in. You lived in a hooch. So tied that with dry and that being alcohol, but nowadays it can be drugs or whatever else it is.
Anyone can stop in for a cup, but its focus is geared toward veterans, especially those who deal with issues of drug addiction, alcoholism, and PTSD.
I did 6 years. I served with 173rd Airborne in Afghanistan. And then after that, I'd seen my time in combat, and I had enough. So I made sure I got duty stationed in a place a little bit more low-key, and that was Fort Irwin, California. And I got out in 2013.
Levi Marker was just 22 years old when he deployed to Afghanistan.
When I came back, I still tried to act like I was in the Army. Still partied and drank, you know, still had an attitude that I was a warrior. And other than that, I wanted to be left alone.
He says he became suicidal.
Civilian world seemed like real fake, like all like a facade. And so I was drinking to like kind of not feel that way. Well, I ended up like beating up my father and brother-in-law in the Dells and got arrested, and I was looking at 6 years in prison. And my son's, at this point, maybe 2 months old.
He turned his life around, going to therapy and doing community service at Dry Hooch. That was back in 2013. Now, he's the director of the nonprofit.
You know, I was blessed to go into the service. I'm blessed to have been a veteran. But the biggest blessing is being able to help those guys who actually were in combat.
Otis Winstead, the president and CEO of Dry Hooch, was in the service during the Vietnam era, stationed in Fort Ord, California for 3 years in the artillery unit as an administrator.
Initially, this was built for men transitioning out of the military combat zone. But what we found out was that when you talk about trauma, anyone who's been in the military can, and a lot of times, does experience trauma.
I enlisted after high school.
Bob Curry, founder of Dry Hooch, was 18 when he enlisted in the Army. He spent 3 years in Laos.
We came back into California, and when we got off the bus, we could see a bunch of people protesting about Vietnam. And I took my uniform and put them in my garbage can.
Unlike soldiers returning home from World War II, praised like heroes, there were no victory parades or welcome home rallies for Vietnam vets.
The misconception is that society sometimes feels that the vet is saying that you owe us something. He ain't really saying that. He's not really saying that. What he's simply saying is, give me the opportunity, try to understand, and really just listen to my story.
Curry says flashbacks of his time in war were present, even years after he left.
I started drinking quite a bit, and so I spiraled for the next 10 years or so after that. And I would try, like every other person that struggles with that. And then I got into an accident, and when I was out drunk, and I killed a person.
In October 2002, Curry spent several months in jail after colliding with a motorcyclist on a highway. He was charged with homicide by intoxicated use of a motor vehicle. The jury in the 8-day trial found him not guilty by reason of insanity.
Which had never been tested with PTSD.
When he was released from the state's mental institution, he came up with this idea.
That something terrible had happened, that now out of this, part of it is responsibility that I wanted to do, that I couldn't pay back that person, but I could maybe help other people from not being in that situation.
It's been a long road back for Curry since taking responsibility for the tragedy. His organization has impacted countless others in an equally rough place, eventually seeing Dry Hooch earn recognition among the most effective outreach organizations in the city and expanding to a second Milwaukee area location in 2014.
Oh, I mean, that was, I still shake from that.
The nonprofit offers free services, from transportation to legal advice and a peer support app where veterans can remain anonymous.
It's that fact that somebody else understands you. And what Dry Hooch does is in our training program, it's about peer support and how to train somebody to be able to share your experience in a therapeutic way that's going to help them understand that they need to make their own plan to make their life better.